Hey everybody, in this video I wanted to cover going over GitHub Desktop and how you can use that to link it to a server so you can work on projects remotely with other people. So in this example I'm going to show how to set this up for Level Design 2. We're currently working on Project Shadow. So I just downloaded GitHub Desktop from the web. What I want to do now after I run it is go ahead and sign in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and go through the configure git process. If you haven't done this already, first time, just run through this process. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so after I signed in, you'll have something like this. And what we want to do is actually clone a repository from the internet. So you can either do this one of three ways. You have github.com, so if you're signed in and somebody's given you access to a project, you will find it in this list here. Or if you know the name of the link, the URL, you can paste it right here. So I already know what project I'm looking for, so I'm just going to go ahead and type in Project Shadow. There we go, Richland College Gaming, fantastic. Now this is saying, where do you want to put this project, right? Where do I want to save this? So I'm going to go into my File Explorer here. I'm going to go into this drive, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. And we're going to call this Richland Projects. Okay? So this is kind of a master folder. If I had multiple projects in here from different places, I'm going to just put them all in this folder. If you create another folder in here called whatever your project name is, it's actually going to show it twice, so that's why I didn't do that here. So if I click select folder, you see the new directory says the D drive and then Richland Projects, wherever you want to save it, new empty folder. And then this says the name of the project here, and I'll put all of those files in that location. So that's all good, ready to go. Let's go ahead and hit clone. So cloning is basically just downloading files. So this is going to take a little bit. What it's doing is, it's just downloading all the files from the project onto my machine. And when it's finished, what we'll be able to do is make changes to the project. So for example, if I was working on a map file, what I would want to do is go ahead and work on the map file, hit save, and then there will be a changes list where I can go ahead and push those changes up to the server. That is what they call the origin master. So if it says origin anywhere, that's referring to your computer, your repository, your workspace, quote unquote. There's lots of different terminology for this. And the one that's actually out there on GitHub, that is the server, or sometimes they call the origin master, or the repo, the depot. Any of those words are kind of a little bit interchangeable. So we connect them together, we can send files up, and we can pull files down. Now, something interesting about Git and GitHub and GitHub Desktop, it's a little bit different from some of the other source control, version control software you may have used before. Some people have no experience using any of this. Some people have experience with either SVN, Tortoise, Perforce, or something similar. And some of those programs will allow you to check out files. So kind of like a library book, so to speak. If I check out a library book, right, I could go, let's say I wrote something in it, and I made changes to it, and I put it back at the library, right, I turned it back in. Somebody else could then check out that library book and then make changes to it and then put it back in, right, or something they could, write in and whatnot. And it puts a lock on it so that other people can't make changes while that file is checked out. GitHub and Git and GitHub Desktop do not work like that. They are intended for mainly programmers, where they're actually writing lines of code that can kind of interweave together. So the system is not designed for being able to check files in and out. So the main rule of thumb when we're using this system of version control for what they call binary files, so map files are anything like that that's not actual code, it's more visual based. What we do is we make sure that we collaborate with our team to know who's working on what file and when, so we don't step on each other's toes. And it makes the process much smoother, much easier for everybody to be able to pull other people's work down to their computer, and also to make changes and upload them so that they can see show everybody else what they've been working on. So yeah, that's the main difference between GitHub Desktop, GitHub, and just general, as opposed to some of these other version control, source control software methodologies, I guess. So yeah, the main rule of thumb, communicate with your team. That is crucial. And the other one would be, as soon as you get into the project, as soon as this finishes downloading here in just a minute, what we want to do is go ahead and go to the section where it says fetch and pull, and that's going to download all of the remaining updates that are in the history list. So whenever somebody makes a change, it adds it to a revision, and then that revision will show up in the history tab. You'll see that here in a second. We want to make sure that we are always on the top of the stack. So if you've ever played Jenga, you know you always take out the brick and you put it on the very top. Imagine we're kind of doing like this, you know, this stacking process. Anytime you want to push something, you have to have the most recent updates before you can push your updates to the top of the stack, the top of the list. That is very, very, very important. Otherwise, what happens is called a merge, and we really want to try to avoid those. They do happen from time to time. If you forget to fetch and pull right before you upload your files, it does happen. But we want to try to avoid those as much as possible. It just makes things a lot smoother. If you have any questions about which files you need to push and which ones you don't, please send a message to your team leader or your project leader, or if you're in a class, ask the instructor. It's easier for them to explain it to you if it doesn't make sense at first, before you just go ahead and do something and potentially kind of mess up the project. And that does also happen. That's why we bring it up here. Fantastic. So you can see that we finished downloading here. So I'm going to go over this interface real quick, right? So over here in the top left corner, see where it says current repository, project shadow, right? So these are the projects I have downloaded onto my machine, not the ones that are just sitting out there on GitHub. So you can switch between all of your different projects there, right? Here's that changes tab we were talking about, right? And then here's the history tab. So these are all the things that have been changed over the course of this project. So for example, we have somebody here that uploaded some files, right? And they're working on some blueprints inside of Unreal and a couple of map files. And if you notice, if I click on some of these different updates, you'll see different files are being changed and some are being added. The difference is anything that has a yellow circle next to it instead of that square, that means something has been modified or changed on that file. And if it's green, that means a new file has been added. So remember, green plus sign, that file's been added. Yellow plus sign, that file's been changed. So let's say I go back to the changes tab. I haven't made any changes to the project. I just downloaded it, right? So what do I need to do now? Well, if you don't have any changes that have been made, you'll see no local changes or something similar that pops up in the center of the screen here. I want to go over to Show and Explore, and this will take me to my repository, right? So you can see it pulls up Windows here, the Explorer. And what I want to do is go ahead and go to the section that says, inside this base folder. If you can't see my screen right now, I apologize. The recording software may not be showing this, so if you do see it, great. All I'm doing is inside of that project folder in the blank area, I'm just creating a new text document to show as an example. So I'm going to call this new test doc. And then I'm opening up, and then I'm going to type hello world. There we go, and I'm going to hit save. Now if I go back to GitHub Desktop, you'll notice that automatically as soon as a new file's been added or a file has changed, it'll show up in a change list here. And they'll actually show you line by line what has changed. So programmers love this because they can see line by line what code somebody changed and when. And you can see there's that green plus sign. I added that file, and it is not currently on the server, and I want to go ahead and push it up to the server on GitHub. So what do I do first, right? Well, first thing, make sure that you're only pushing files that you're allowed to push. There'll probably be some restrictions on what you can and can't change, depending on the what the team leads and your project lead gives you access to. Another rule of thumb is if it's not in your department, don't touch it. That's just so people don't step on each other's toes. The most where that happens is probably going to be on the programming team or the level team, because they're the people that are mainly using the game engine, and that's where it will most likely happen. So I'm adding a file right now, so I'm not making changes to anybody else's files on here, so I should be good. Down here where it says summary, right, I'm going to go ahead and type my name. So I'll put in Josh, and I'm going to put a dash, and then what I did. So added a new test doc. Okay. If you would like to add more details, if there's a lot of things that you did, go ahead and put it down in this description. That's what it's for. It'll pop up in the history tab when you click on the revision, and all that stuff will show there. Okay, so I'm good to go. Now, before I hit that commit button, I want to go ahead and fetch and see if there have been any changes since I have downloaded the project. There have not been, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and hit commit now. What commit does is it takes your files and it updates your project on your computer. So right before you push it to the server, it's kind of like a backup to make sure that these are actually the things that you want to change and upload. If not, then you can always hit this undo button down here, which is really nice. So I can put it back to the way it was. If I need to, I don't want to hit that file, right? You can right click, discard something if you need to, and then fix it and then go on, right? So let's do that process again. I'm actually going to push it this time. So fetch. Okay, no changes. Good. Hit commit. And now up here at the top it says push origin. So we're pushing from here up to the master branch, right, on the server. So you can click this or this button over here, right? It's going to go through this process. This will be kind of a progress bar, and we're done. Fantastic. So I'm going to go to the history tab, and if you look at here at the top, see there's my latest addition to this server. Added a new test doc and what I did to that particular file. So if you have any questions about this process, please reach out to your project lead, the instructor teaching the class, or your team leader if this is project development, and they can help you with these issues. Remember the rule of thumb, you want to fetch and pull updates before you commit or push anything. Another one would be make sure your engine, game engine, or any other software you're using is closed when you're fetching pulling. It's okay to have it open sometimes when you're pushing. And then just make sure to communicate. That's the biggest part of this. Communication is key to making source control, version control work, and for everybody to have a a productive workflow, and make sure that everybody's on the same page and you're making really awesome stuff. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and if you have any questions, definitely reach out. Bye-bye.